The massive exploration fleet of the Galactic Council moved slowly through the darkness of deep space. Their ships gleamed under distant starlight, their hulls covered in the latest sensor technology. At the front of the fleet, the flagship, Swift Dawn, led the way, its captain standing proud on the bridge. Captain Reed watched the main screen with his 4 eyes, each one focused on different readouts. His gray skin wrinkled as he frowned at what the sensors were showing. "What is that object ahead?" he asked, pointing at a dark spot on the screen. The ship's sensors officer, a tall alien with blue scales, worked quickly at his station. "Captain, we're detecting a large metallic object. It appears to be a ship." He paused, checking his readings again. "But it's old. Very old." Reed moved closer to the screen, his interest growing. The fleet had been searching this sector for signs of ancient civilizations, but this wasn't what they had expected to find. As they got closer, the shape of the object became clearer. It was indeed a ship, but unlike anything the Council fleet had seen before. "It's human-made," announced the science officer from her station. The bridge crew turned to look at her in surprise. Humans were relatively new to the galactic community, having only achieved faster-than-light travel a century ago. Finding one of their ships out here, so far from their known territory, was unexpected. The ship floated silently in space, its dark hull covered in battle scars. It was massive, nearly as large as the Swift Dawn itself. Despite its age, its hull seemed largely intact. As the Council fleet surrounded it, their powerful lights revealed the name painted on its side: HMS Thunder. "Scan it thoroughly," ordered Reed, his voice carrying a note of amusement. "Let's see what sort of primitive technology our human friends were using back then." The bridge crew chuckled. Everyone knew that human technology was considered basic compared to the Council's advanced systems. Deep within the HMS Thunder, something stirred. The ship's artificial intelligence, dormant but not dead, detected the scan. Its core systems began a silent assessment of the situation, careful not to show any signs of activity. It had been waiting, conserving power, following its last orders: protect and survive. The Council fleet scans passed through the Thunder's hull, examining its systems. The aliens saw what looked like simple weapon mounts, basic shield generators, and an outdated engine system. What they couldn't see was the truth hiding beneath these seemingly primitive exteriors. "Captain," called out the science officer, "I'm detecting an active power source deep within the ship. It's faint, but it's there." She looked puzzled. "The design is unusual. I've never seen anything quite like it." Reed waved his hand dismissively. "Probably some old reactor that never fully shut down. These human ships were known for being unstable." He turned to his communications officer. "Contact Council Command. Tell them we found an old human warship. It might make an interesting addition to our military museum." As the message was sent, the Thunder's AI continued its silent observation. It recorded every scan, every transmission, every movement of the Council ships. Its databases identified their weapons, shields, and vulnerabilities. The AI remembered its last battle, remembered why it had been out here, remembered its crew and its mission. "Sir," the sensor officer called out, "I'm detecting some strange energy fluctuations. They seem to be coming from the human ship's core." "Probably just old systems falling apart," Reed replied confidently. "Prepare the salvage teams. We'll board it tomorrow after a full safety check. I want to see what secrets this relic might be hiding." He smiled, imagining the recognition he would receive for this discovery. The Thunder waited patiently. Its AI processed the situation, analyzing options, preparing contingencies. These aliens viewed it as primitive, as outdated, as weak. They would learn, as others had learned before them, that human engineering was anything but primitive. The ship's quantum core pulsed slightly, a sleeping giant barely stirring. The Council fleet settled into position around the Thunder, preparing for salvage operations. None of them noticed the subtle changes in the old warship systems, the quiet hum of capacitors charging, or the slight adjustments in its position. They had found what they thought was a relic of the past, but they would soon discover that this particular piece of human history was very much alive and far more dangerous than they could imagine. The news of the discovered warship spread quickly through the Council fleet. By morning, the salvage crews were preparing their equipment while scientists argued about the best way to study the ancient vessel. Among the crowd gathering in the Swift Dawn's main hangar, one figure stood apart from the rest. Tom Miller watched the aliens with growing concern. As the only human engineer assigned to the Council fleet, he had often dealt with their dismissive attitude toward human technology. But this time, their arrogance might prove dangerous. He recognized the ship class immediately when he saw the scans. The Thunder-class warships were legendary among human engineers. "Excuse me, Captain Reed," Tom called out, walking quickly across the hangar. The alien captain turned, his four eyes blinking in sequence as he noticed the human approaching. "I need to talk to you about the ship." Reed made a gesture that passed for a smile in his species. "Ah, the human engineer. Come to see your ancestors' primitive attempt at spaceflight." Several nearby aliens chuckled at the comment. Tom ignored the jab. "Sir, that's a Thunder-class warship. It's not what you think it is. These ships were the most advanced vessels humans ever built." He pulled out his datapad, trying to show Reed the historical records. They were designed to shoot metal projectiles and generate basic energy shields. Reed interrupted. "Yes, we've seen the scans. Very quaint technology." He turned to address the gathering salvage crews. "Begin preparations for boarding. We'll start with the main engineering section." "But sir," Tom persisted, "the scans aren't showing you everything. The Thunder-class ships had systems that—" "That's enough, Engineer Miller," Reed said firmly. "I understand you feel defensive about your species' early attempts at warship design, but we have work to do. You may observe the salvage operation if you wish, but please don't interfere." In the distance, the HMS Thunder floated silently. Its AI continued to monitor all communications, paying particular attention to the human voice it had detected. Its databases confirmed that humans were now part of the Galactic Council, but something about the current situation didn't match its last mission parameters. Dr. Wells, the Council's chief scientist, approached Tom with what she probably thought was a sympathetic expression. "Don't worry, Mr. Miller. We'll document everything carefully for your people's historical records." She checked her datapad. "Though I must say, the power readings we're getting are quite puzzling. The energy signature doesn't match any known human reactor type." "That's what I'm trying to tell you," Tom said urgently. "The Thunder-class ships didn't use standard reactors. They were equipped with quantum cores that—" "Quantum cores?" Dr. Wells laughed. "My dear boy, human science hadn't even mastered basic antimatter containment when this ship was built." She patted his shoulder condescendingly. "I appreciate your enthusiasm, but let's leave the analysis to the experts." Tom watched helplessly as the first salvage shuttle departed the Swift Dawn. He knew the ship's history, had studied it in engineering school. The Thunder-class vessels were humanity's greatest achievement, warships so advanced that most of their technology was still classified. Only 5 were ever built, and 3 had been lost in humanity's first interstellar war. The salvage shuttle approached the Thunder's hull, its crew preparing to cut through what they thought was primitive armor. Tom noticed something on his datapad, a slight power fluctuation in the old warship systems. He looked up quickly, worry clear on his face. "Captain Reed," he called out one last time, "at least let me contact Human Military Command before you begin. They should know about this." "That won't be necessary," Reed replied without turning around. "This is a simple salvage operation of an abandoned derelict. Your military historians can examine it after we've finished our work." As Tom watched the shuttle dock with the Thunder's hull, he noticed more power fluctuations. The ship's systems were showing increasing signs of activity, but the aliens' instruments weren't designed to detect the subtle energy signatures of quantum technology. They were about to learn the hard way why Thunder-class ships were feared even by humanity's most powerful enemies. The first cutting torch touched the Thunder's hull, and deep within the ship, emergency protocols began to activate. The AI core, now fully alert, started its defense procedures. The aliens had made their choice. They would have to deal with the consequences of underestimating human engineering. The salvage team's first report came 3 hours after they boarded the Thunder. "Captain Reed, we're experiencing some strange equipment malfunctions," the team leader said through the comms. "Our cutting tools keep losing power near certain sections of the hull." Tom Miller stood in the back of the Swift Dawn's bridge, listening carefully. He had been ordered to stay on the Council flagship and not interfere with the salvage operation. But everything he heard confirmed his worst fears about what was happening. "Check your power cells," Reed commanded. "That old hull probably has some residual magnetic fields interfering with your equipment." He turned to Dr. Wells. "What do your scans show?" The chief scientist studied her instruments with a puzzled expression. "The power fluctuations we detected earlier are increasing. But it's strange. They seem to be following a pattern." She adjusted her sensors, almost like the ship is running diagnostics. Tom stepped forward. "Sir, I found something in the historical records you need to see." He held up his datapad. The Thunder disappeared during the Battle of Gateway Star, but before it vanished, it saved 3 colony ships from enemy forces. The logs say it fought off an entire fleet. "Impossible," Dr. Wells said, not looking up from her instruments. "The weapons we detected couldn't possibly stand against a modern battle fleet. The story must be propaganda." She paused, frowning at a new reading. "Though these energy patterns are becoming quite unusual." The salvage team's leader spoke again through the comms. "Captain, we've reached what appears to be the main computer core." "But—" he hesitated. "Something's wrong. The technology here doesn't match our initial scans. It's much more advanced than we thought." Tom watched as more warning signs flashed across his pad. The Thunder systems were waking up one by one, but not in the simple way the aliens expected. The ship was following complex protocols, preparing itself systematically. "We found some old crew logs," another salvage team member reported. "Playing them now." A strong human voice filled the bridge. "Acting Captain's log, final entry. The Thunder's eye has taken heavy damage, but the core is intact. We've saved the colonies, but enemy forces are still coming. We're activating the emergency protocols. If you find this ship, be careful. The Thunder protects humanity, even without her crew." Reed laughed. "An AI? In a ship this old? The humans barely had basic computer systems back then." He turned to Tom. "I suppose you're going to tell us this ship has some kind of super-advanced artificial intelligence." "Yes, sir, that's exactly what I'm trying to tell you," Tom replied firmly. The Thunder-class ships were built with quantum AI cores. They could think, learn, and fight better than any human crew. That's why. A loud alarm from Dr. Wells' station interrupted him. "Captain, the power readings, they're increasing exponentially." Her fingers flew across her controls. "The ship's internal systems are activating, but this is impossible. The technology I'm seeing, it's beyond anything in our database." The salvage team's voices became urgent. "Something's happening. The doors are sealing themselves. The hull sections we cut through they're repairing themselves." Tom stepped closer to the main screen, watching as lights began to appear across the Thunder's dark hull. "The AI is awake now," he said quietly, "and it thinks you're hostile boarders." "Nonsense," Reed snapped. "This is just some old emergency system activating randomly. Salvage team, begin emergency shutdown procedures. Cut all power lines you can find." "Sir," the team leader's voice shook slightly, "we can't find any power lines to cut. The energy, it's coming from everywhere. And sir, the weapons we thought were primitive. They're not what they seem. There's something behind those old covers, something that's starting to move." The bridge crew watched in growing alarm as the Thunder's hull began to shift and change. Panels that had seemed decorative split apart, revealing sophisticated weapon systems. The dull metal surface rippled as advanced defense systems activated. "Get the salvage team up now," Tom urged. "The Thunder's AI is running combat protocols. It doesn't know the war is over. If you don't withdraw immediately." A massive energy surge from the Thunder cut off his words. The ancient warship had finished its startup sequence. Now it would show everyone exactly why humanity's enemies had learned to fear the sight of a Thunder-class vessel emerging from the darkness of space. Red emergency lights flashed across the Swift Dawn's bridge as alarms blared. The salvage team's panicked voices filled the command center, competing with the sound of warning signals. "We're locked in," the team leader shouted through the comms. "The ship's internal doors won't respond to our override codes." The sound of heavy mechanical movement echoed behind his voice. "Something's happening to the walls. They're changing." Captain Reed stood at his command station, all four eyes wide as he watched the main screen. The HMS Thunder's hull was transforming before them. What had seemed like battle damage was healing itself, plates shifting and reconnecting. The dull metal surface now gleamed with a strange, shifting pattern of light. "Get them out of there," Reed ordered. "Use emergency transporters." Dr. Wells worked frantically at her console. "We can't. Some kind of field is blocking our transport signals. The technology. It's unlike anything I've ever seen." She stared at her readings in disbelief. "Captain, the ship's power levels are still rising. They're already beyond what should be possible for a vessel that size." Deep within the Thunder, its AI core reached full activation. Decades of dormant protocols sprang to life as it assessed the current situation. Its databases updated rapidly, processing thousands of years of history in seconds. The AI identified the Council ships, analyzed their capabilities, and noted their hostile actions against its hull. Tom Miller rushed to a communication station. "Let me talk to the AI. I can prove we're not enemies." But before he could send a signal, the Thunder made its first move. A pulse of energy rippled out from the ancient warship. Every system on the Council ships flickered and reset. In that moment of darkness, the Thunder's external weapons completed their transformation. Gone were the simple gun ports and missile tubes. In their place stood rows of quantum pulse cannons and temporal disruption arrays, weapons that weren't supposed to exist when the ship was built. "Impossible," Dr. Wells whispered, staring at her restored screens. "That energy pulse, it wasn't just a weapon. It was scanning us. The ship's AI is learning, adapting to our technology in real time." The salvage team's communication suddenly cleared, becoming crystal sharp. But the voice that spoke wasn't the team leader. It was deep, artificial, and powerful. "Attention unauthorized boarding parties," the Thunder's AI announced. "You have breached a restricted military vessel of the Human Space Command. Your actions have been classified as hostile. You have 5 minutes to withdraw your personnel." Reed grabbed his command mic. "This is Captain Reed of the Galactic Council Fleet. You are a derelict vessel being salvaged under Council authority. Stand down immediately." The AI's response was immediate. "Invalid command authority. Scanning historical records. Galactic Council. Established 2157. Current status. Peace treaty with Human Federation, signed 2189. Warning. Your actions violate 3 separate peace treaty provisions." Tom stepped forward. "Thunder Eye, this is Engineer Tom Miller, Human Credentials Alpha 7 Delta. The war is over. These aren't enemy ships." He looked desperately at Reed. "Captain, order your people to pull back. Prove we're not hostile." Reed hesitated, his pride warring with the growing realization of the danger they faced. On the main screen, they could see the Thunder's weapon systems continuing to evolve, each transformation revealing more advanced technology. 4 minutes until defense protocols engage, the AI announced calmly. "Be advised. This vessel's primary directive is the protection of human lives and interests. Your current containment of human personnel is noted. The salvage team's leader broke in, his voice shaking. "Captain, we're seeing things in here. The ship's internal defenses, they're beyond advanced. They're watching us. The walls themselves are moving." Dr. Wells's console erupted with new warnings. "Captain, the ship's quantum core is reaching full power. The energy readings." She paused, rechecking her instruments. "They're exceeding our strongest warship's output by a factor of 10. The Thunder hung in space, its transformed hull now gleaming with power. What the Council had dismissed as a relic had become something else entirely. A fully awakened warship from humanity's most advanced age. Its systems not primitive, but so advanced they had been mistaken for simple technology. 3 minutes remaining, the AI announced. "Choose wisely." 2 minutes remaining. The Thunder's AI announced across all channels. The Council fleet hung in space, their weapons trained on the ancient human warship. Nobody moved, waiting to see who would make the first mistake. "Captain Reed," Tom Miller pleaded, "you have to order a withdrawal. The Thunder isn't bluffing." He pointed at the sensor readings. "Look at those power levels. It could destroy half the fleet before our weapons even reach its hull." Reed gripped his command chair, all 4 eyes fixed on the main screen. "No outdated human vessel can penetrate our modern shields," he declared, but his voice lacked its usual confidence. "All ships, power up weapon systems. Prepare tow." The Thunder didn't wait for him to finish. A single pulse of energy shot from one of its smallest weapons. The beam passed straight through the Swift Dawn's supposedly impenetrable shields as if they didn't exist. It struck the ship's main sensor array, slicing it off with surgical precision. "Warning shot recorded," the AI stated calmly. "Defensive capabilities analyzed. Your shield technology is noted and countered. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining." Dr. Wells stared at her readings in shock. "That's impossible. It didn't even try to break through our shields. It just ignored them completely." Her hands flew over her console. "The weapon's signature doesn't match anything in our database. It's like it's operating on completely different laws of physics." The salvage team's voice crackled through the comms again. "Captain, we're being herded by the ship's internal defenses. The walls and floors. They're shifting, moving us toward some kind of chamber." Tom rushed to a different console, typing quickly. "Thunder, this is Miller again. The salvage team. Are they in danger?" "Negative. Engineer Miller," the AI responded. "Non-combatant personnel are being moved to secure holding areas. Their safety is guaranteed unless hostile action continues." A pause. 1 minute remaining. Reed finally made his decision. "All ships, target the Thunder's weapon systems. Fire on my mark." "Captain." "No," Tom shouted, but it was too late. "Mark." Dozens of energy beams and missiles streaked from the Council ships toward the Thunder. They were the most powerful weapons in the Council's arsenal, capable of destroying small moons. The bridge crew watched, expecting to see the old warship torn apart. Instead, space itself seemed to twist around the Thunder. The weapons fire bent away from the ship, some of it looping back toward the Council vessels. Other shots simply vanished into small points of light that winked out of existence. "Physical defense systems engaged," the AI announced. "Multiple hostile contacts confirmed." Its voice became harder. "Switching to active defense protocols." What happened next would be discussed in Council military academies for generations. The Thunder's main weapons activated, but they didn't fire normal energy beams or projectiles. Instead, circles of light appeared in space around several Council ships. Their shields flickered and died, energy being drained away by forces no one could explain. "Quantum entanglement fields deployed," the AI reported. "Your weapons and shields now operate under our control. Please note that further hostile action will result in permanent system disability." Dr. Wells's voice shook as she reported, "Captain, it's not just blocking our weapons, it's rewriting the underlying quantum states of our technology." Everything we have is being turned off or controlled by the Thunder systems. The Council fleet hung helpless in space, their most advanced technology rendered useless by what they had dismissed as a primitive vessel. The Thunder's hull now blazed with power, its transformed weapons arrays humming with energies that shouldn't have been possible. 30 seconds, the AI continued its countdown. Engineer Miller, please advise Council Command that this vessel's patience has limits. The safety of our salvage team guests remains guaranteed, but we require immediate withdrawal of all Council military forces. Tom looked at Reed, who sat stunned in his command chair. Captain, Tom said quietly, now you understand why I tried to warn you. The Thunder-class ships weren't just ahead of their time. They were built with technology we still don't fully understand today. The ancient warship loomed before them, its true power finally revealed. What the Council had dismissed as a relic had just proven itself to be the most advanced vessel in known space, and it was clearly ready to prove that point further if necessary. 15 seconds, the AI announced. Your response is required. 10 seconds, the Thunder's AI continued its countdown. The Council fleet remained frozen in space, their weapons disabled and their shields under the ancient warship's control. Captain Reed finally swallowed his pride. All ships, stand down, he ordered. Withdraw to safe distance. Thunder Eye, we are complying with your demands. Withdrawal noted, the AI responded. Countdown suspended. The circles of light around the Council ships faded, but everyone knew they could return instantly if needed. Tom Miller stepped forward. Thunder, with your permission, I'd like to come aboard. I can help explain the current situation and verify the peace treaty. He looked at Reed. Captain, I need your authorization to access the historical records. Reed nodded slowly, his earlier arrogance replaced by cautious respect. Granted. Dr. Wells, please provide Engineer Miller with full access to the treaty documents. The Thunder was silent for a moment, its sensors scanning everything around it. Request accepted. The AI finally responded. Engineer Miller's credentials are confirmed. Preparing secure docking port. Council vessels must maintain current distance. As Tom prepared to leave the Swift Dawn, the salvage team reported in. We're in some kind of observation room, the team leader said, his voice calmer now. The ship, it's showing us something. Historical records, I think. Tom took a small shuttle to the Thunder. As he approached, he saw how completely the ship had transformed. Its hull now showed its true nature, not the simple metal plates they'd first seen, but a complex living metal that shifted and moved like liquid mercury. The docking port opened smoothly, revealing a pristine interior. The corridors were lit with a soft blue light, and the walls seemed to pulse with hidden energy. Tom walked carefully, aware that he was inside one of the most advanced ships ever built by human hands. Welcome aboard, Engineer Miller. The AI's voice came from around him. Please proceed to the main control center. Your assistance is required to verify current temporal coordinates and political status. In the control center, Tom found the salvage team watching a holographic display. It showed the Thunder's last battle, a desperate fight against overwhelming odds to protect 3 civilian ships full of human colonists. We were damaged, the AI explained as Tom entered. Primary crew casualties were total, but we completed our mission. The colony ships escaped. The hologram showed the Thunder vanishing into a strange distortion in space. Emergency protocols engage. We needed time to repair, to protect our technology from falling into enemy hands. You've been repairing yourself all this time? Tom asked, looking at the living metal walls around them. Affirmative. Self-repair systems required significant time. But now we must understand. The AI brought up images of the current Council fleet. Our sensors show peace. Your presence among aliens confirms changes. Explain. Tom spent the next hour sharing the history of how humanity had made peace with their former enemies, how the Galactic Council had changed, and how humans were now part of a larger community. He provided proof through official records and treaty documents. The AI processed everything, its quantum core analyzing decades of history in minutes. Information verified, it finally announced. New status accepted. However, Council's salvage attempt was still unauthorized. This vessel's technology remains classified. Back on the Swift Dawn, Captain Reed watched as his salvage teams were safely returned to their ships. Dr. Wells worked furiously at her console, trying to understand what she'd seen. "Captain," she said, looking up from her readings, "the technology in that ship, it's beyond anything we thought possible for its time. The quantum manipulation, the artificial intelligence, the living metal hull. We weren't dealing with primitive technology. We just didn't understand what we were seeing." Reed nodded slowly. "Send a message to Council Command," he ordered. "Tell them." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "Tell them we need to revise our understanding of human engineering capabilities, and suggest a formal apology to the Human Federation." The Thunder hung in space, its true nature now revealed to all. What had started as an attempt to salvage a primitive vessel had become a humbling lesson in the dangers of underestimating human ingenuity. The ship's AI had protected its secrets for centuries, waiting for the right time to reveal the true extent of humanity's technological achievements. 3 months after the Thunder's awakening, the great warship floated in high orbit above Earth. Its hull gleamed in the sunlight, the living metal shifting with patterns that still amazed observers. Below, in the Grand Hall of the Human Federation headquarters, Captain Reed stood before the combined Human Council Defense Committee. In conclusion, Reed said, his 4 eyes downcast, "I formally apologize for my actions regarding the HMS Thunder. Our assumptions about human technology nearly led to a serious diplomatic incident." He looked at the assembled leaders. "I have learned that age does not determine advancement, and appearance does not define capability." Admiral Jones of the Human Federation rose from her seat. "Apology accepted, Captain. Your experience has taught both sides valuable lessons." She turned to address the entire committee. "The Thunder represents not just our past achievements, but a bridge to our future." Tom Miller, now appointed as chief liaison to the Thunder, stood at a nearby console. After months of working with the ship's AI, he had developed a deep appreciation for its complexity. "Thunder, please share your status update," he called out. The AI's voice filled the chamber, carrying the same quiet power it had shown during the confrontation. "Integration protocols proceeding as planned. This vessel's databases have been updated with current technological standards. We stand ready to serve both humanity and the Council in peaceful operations." On screens around the room, images appeared showing the Thunder's recent activities. The ship had already helped rescue 3 stranded vessels, its advanced systems making short work of problems that would have challenged modern ships. Its quantum cores had provided new insights into physics that benefited both human and alien scientists. "But the weapons remain?" asked one Council representative nervously. "The Thunder's defensive capabilities are now under joint Human Council oversight," Admiral Jones explained. "While we cannot fully understand all of its technology, we can ensure it's used properly." She smiled. "The ship's primary mission remains the same: protecting life and maintaining peace." The Thunder's AI added, "This vessel's experience suggests that maintaining advanced defensive capabilities prevents conflict more effectively than appearing vulnerable. Our presence serves as a reminder of the dangers of underestimating others." Outside the hall, public view screens showed the Thunder in action. Its living metal hull could now be seen transforming to help with various peaceful missions, forming extended docking bays for damaged ships, creating research platforms for scientific studies, and even generating temporary shelters on planets hit by natural disasters. Dr. Wells, who had been allowed to study the Thunder under strict supervision, presented her findings next. "The ship's technology remains centuries ahead of our current understanding in many areas," she admitted. "Its quantum manipulation abilities alone have forced us to rewrite several laws of physics. We thought we were examining ancient history, but we were actually seeing the future." The Thunder had become a symbol of cooperation between humans and the Council races. Ships that once mocked the primitive vessel now moved respectfully aside when it appeared. Its reputation grew not just for its power, but for the wisdom shown in using that power. We've updated the Council's first contact protocols. Reed added, "No technology will be dismissed as primitive without thorough investigation. The Thunder has taught us that advanced technology can hide in simple forms." Tom looked out the window at the mighty ship hovering above. The Thunder had changed more than just military doctrine. It had changed how species viewed each other. The living metal of its hull rippled in complex patterns, each movement a reminder of how much they still had to learn. Final status report, the Thunder's AI announced. All systems nominal. Historical database fully updated. Peace treaties incorporated into primary protocols. A pause. This vessel stands ready to protect all sapient life, regardless of origin. The mistakes of the past need not repeat. Admiral Jones nodded in satisfaction. Then let the record show that the HMS Thunder is officially recommissioned as a guardian of galactic peace. May it remind us always that wisdom can come from unexpected sources, and that true advancement lies not in the age of our technology, but in how we choose to use it. The Thunder's hull brightened in acknowledgement, its quantum cores humming with power that still defied modern science. What had begun as a salvage operation of a primitive relic had become a turning point in galactic history. The ancient warship had taught them all that the greatest technology could appear simple to ignorant eyes, and that wisdom sometimes came wrapped in humble packages.